world is filled with darkness that nobody can explain. In what we face, we also encounter the work of evil. Join us tonight as we dive into subject matter of something wicked and macabre that inflicts our modern world. You're listening to the Venomous Fringe.
In Saltville, Virginia, a residency of under 5,000 has had plenty of surrounding plateau and plains that strike with exploration and hiking. But particularly, the town is also notable for its surrounding forest land that covers through Tennessee. However, the sights, while beautiful, locals have told stories for decades of a giant hairy ape-like creature stalking their woodland and creating tourism and within the region. For most of the 20th century, the locals of Saltville and Norton, Virginia have reported seeing a brownish, red-haired, 7 feet tall, giant hominid that echoes to Bigfoot. Though some call it a wood booger, its most notable name, the Beast of Gum Hill. The Beast of Gum Hill's origin comes from a 2009 video of the reported creature and years of archived testimonies from Virginia's southern region. The beast, when encountered, has had no interest with human contact and shows no sign of aggression or intimidation, though if provoked otherwise, it can be determined. The reported sightings of the Beast of Gum Hill go as far back as the late 1970s into the early 80s. Locals reported hearing stories of a large, giant creature crossing the roads and fields at night, often spotted during the full moons. But in the span of a few years, more locals began to come forward, sharing their stories with one another firsthand before the boom in the internet helped spread the testimony. It should be interesting to note that Virginia is in the top 5 for the most reported Bigfoot sightings. It's no surprise that some of the smaller towns in the massive states keep hush about this type of subject. It was said that a photograph of the beast was captured in the late 1980s, but the photograph was believed to have been shared by an eyewitness who told a gentleman firsthand their experience. It's yet to be released to the public, and most likely never will. The following is a series of encounters that have been showcased to the internet. I'll leave links in the description down below so you can have a look yourself. The first story comes from a gentleman who claims to have seen the beast with his wife back in the late 1990s. The man was on a trail not too far from the Gum Hill Cemetery before encountering a large brown-haired hominid passing through not too far away from the couple. The man was startled and his wife was shaken. They had never seen anything like this before. When returning to the car, the wife told the husband not to tell anyone what they saw. The husband ended up sharing the story with a friend one day before it got out. Though there's often misconception on Bigfoots being affiliated with cemeteries, I believe it has something to do with the burial grounds and lore surrounding them. One thing I would like to mention is Gum Hill is, while a large area, and though Saltville and Norton cover most of the Powell Valley, the land itself dates back to the Native American residency. Often we hear a lot of cases of Native American and Bigfoot connection, and perhaps maybe this one was watching over such fort. Another case, one night, a woman was having a cigarette on her porch when she saw several giant masses of reddish-brown fur run through the woodline before taking off into the night. The event dumbfounded her, as she had never seen such a thing before. The sighting itself was brief, but she believed that they weren't a bunch of teenagers. The noises the creature would make, no human contact would make ever beforehand. When describing the noises, they sounded like baboons, but much deeper in tone and screeching. It's no question, perhaps, that these, if they were indeed a Bigfoot, were juvenile. In 2001, an avid hunter notable in the area had returned from his trip startled. The hunter was out and about during his hunt when he began to hear echoes of howls and violent screams coming from his far right. Though they were from a mere distance, the hunter was afraid and never heard anything like this before. The hunter has had many years of outdoor experience, even camping in the Gum Hill Valley, but never heard the noises he heard that day. When he finished his trip, he detoured himself back for analysis. He knew what he had heard wasn't normal, and he chose to leave the area in the event of this thing coming near him, if in the event. When telling his story, the noises were sounded abnormal and not animal-like. Bigfoot tends to find a way to lure someone out of their area, or sometimes in general, they do not care. In 2005, a group of youths were walking alongside the trails near Gum Hill and into the peak of the valley when one of the young men smelled an odor that was far-fetched and pungent. The outdoor smelt like a mixture of rotten meat and someone decomposed for a good amount of time. The youths backtracked and finalized their brief nature walk by going the opposite direction, fearing perhaps maybe something lingering in that far distance may have provoked or frightened them off. A little bit passes through, and when they come through another trail end, they find a large, giant footprint. The footprint, bigger than their own feet, they reported it to their loved ones but found no belief in them of any of their claims. These following reports were taken at an unknown time in periods before 2017. A group of riders who were trailblazing in the woods not too far from the sighting of the group of youths back in 2005 were riding alongside a bend when one of their own fallen behind. The rest of the riders turned around and proceeded to reclaim their friend, but whilst in the midst of returning to their friend, about 50 feet away, a giant brown and reddish-haired creature emerged from the tree line and crossed ahead. The group collapsed as their ATVs crashed upon their sighting. The creature carried on and ignored the riders, but the riders reportedly got a good visual and following through, standing over 7-8 feet tall, vibrant reddish, brown, and red fur, the weight having to be more than 300 to 400 pounds. The riders regrouped and they didn't pursue, fearing it might have retaliated or even worse. They never forgot it. One final report came from a couple of outdoorsmen. These men were randomly going about their normal day while walking around the high forest of the surrounding valley, when one of the men had noticed up ahead a figure sitting on a giant rock that looked placed in being. Upon further analysis of the being, they reported going through and thinking it was nothing. However, when they got closer to the creature, it turned its head and looked at them before making an inaudible vocalization and ran off into the woods. Both men, much like the hunter in 2001, had many years of outdoor experience, and they never had seen like it before. Though that these were stories found from various sources and testimonies on encounters of Gum Hill, there was still one encounter that took place that was filmed. In 2009, Chuck and Eric were riding their ATVs in a creek one afternoon when they saw this. In the video, what appears to be a large figure is seen crossing the stream about 50 feet away from the eyewitness. The footage was the origin of the infamous title, The Beast of Gum Hill. Chuck and Eric's footage made its way to Finding Bigfoot in 2011. When I look at the footage, I look at the body language between the eyewitness and the creature. The eyewitness's expressions come off surprised, but the creature isn't fazed by the eyewitness or shows any indication of fear or running away whatsoever. It continues to walk across, and before the video cuts, it disappears out of frame. Something many have questioned was what was on the creature's head, as it looks like there was a white object that was facing on its head, and many have assumed that it was a hat. In my opinion, the video itself is a hoax. The body movement is too clear and easily made out to be human based on their stance, the expression of the eyewitness as it calls for a good fable, and poor acting as well. Even though I find the footage to be just a man in a suit, it doesn't mean that there's not a real Bigfoot out in the woodlands of Saltville, and I was curious to find more information on the video. But I had no luck. It wasn't until I came across the video from the Cryptid Crew blog. Fellow researcher Thomas Markham did a blog post on the video and found things out to be made this footage different, as it should be. Thomas had pinpointed in Bristol, Virginia, as the hub location near Gum Hill to where the footage was shot, and further in his research had discovered that the original uploader, named Ericus Maximus, was an artist, and in one particular video, where Eric posted a series titled The Chronicles of Louie. One video, particularly called Boat Problems, showcases Eric standing next to someone dressed in a Bigfoot costume. The costume itself was interesting, as it had the same color scheme as believed to have been the creature in the 2009 video. What's even better is the fact that it's the exact same costume seen in various replicas, specifically a Dollar Tree version of Bigfoot. While I'll leave a link in the description to Thomas's blog post for further discretion, it doesn't change the notion that the video was made up for views and interest. Much like many Bigfoot hoaxed videos, while I find the video to be a hoax even before Thomas's blog discovery, it doesn't change the fact that the large cryptid has been spotted in southern Virginia, and for whatever reason it is, its uncertainty leaves many questions than it does answers.